And this wonderful force that we're just barely peeking on the horizon now will certainly be multiplied many thousand-fold when it's controlled by us and put to work for our human betterment.
Mr. Bacon's prediction that the atom would be harnessed for human betterment came true quickly. But in 1945, it was difficult for the world to comprehend just what this new atomic power meant. Japan offered to surrender, but there was a hitch contingent in the offer. The man on the street had special feelings on the subject of the surrender proposed by the Japanese, as Bernard Mullins and Bob Steele learned when they took to the streets of downtown Hartford with TIC microphones.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Bernard Mullins of station WTIC speaking to you from downtown Hartford, from the very hub of its activity on Main Street near the old State House and the Isle of Safety. Today's news has put us all on the proverbial horns of a dilemma, and while statesmen all over the world are attempting to make up their minds just what the right and just decision should be, so are we ordinary folk, the men and women on the street, weighing in our minds the various angles to Japan's offer to give up with a string attached to it. If ever our leaders wanted to hear the voice of the people, they surely will want to hear it now. So I'm going to ask some of these passersby to come to the microphone and give us their views. Will you come up to the microphone, please? What is your name, please?
T5 Pierce.
What field of operations have you been in?
I've been in European Theater of Operations.
What do you think of Japan's offer?
Well, it's a hard question to answer right at present. I do want the war to end as much as the people in the Pacific, but I do not want Japan to dictate to us in any way.
Well, do you think that if we grant Japan's request, that we'll be admitting that the Emperor is not one of the guilty leaders?
Well, I believe we would in a way.
What do you think the other boys out there would think about this offer?
Well, the boys in the Pacific certainly would want this war to end, irregardless of who was left there to control Japan.
I see. Well, thank you very much, Corporal. Bob Steele is with me, and he has a lady here that he's going to talk to you.
Thank you, Bernie. Here's a lady, mother of 2 young daughters. What is your name?
Natalie Winters.
Natalie Winters?
That's right.
Of Hartford?
Moved here recently.
Where did you come from?
Charlotte, North Carolina.
Charlotte, North Carolina. Have you any relatives in the service, Miss Winters?
Yes, I have my husband's brother and a brother.
And where is he?
New Guinea and Okinawa.
2 in the service, I see. Then you must have some very definite ideas about this war and trying to wind it up. Of course, you've heard today's news that Japan is willing to surrender with a proviso. They want to retain Hirohito as emperor and the spiritual leader of Japan. Now, do you think that we should continue to bomb Japan and fight the Japs until they ask us for peace under any conditions? Or do you think we ought to say, okay, let's stop the fighting right now. We'll allow you to keep Hirohito. What do you think about that?
No, I think we should bomb them. Get it over with.
Continue right through to the end until they ask us for peace on our terms only. Is that right?
That's right. That's the way I feel about it.
It was August 14th, 1945, when
the National Broadcasting Company interrupts all its programs for a special broadcast. This is Morgan Beatty in the NBC newsroom in Washington. The News Corps at the White House, exactly 4 minutes ago, was called in from the paper-littered press room in the West Wing to President Truman's private office, an office that's about a quarter of a block across the building. The newsmen and women, incidentally, there are several of them in this Corps now, hope and believe they will be given the whole story of the Japanese surrender note. They're inside with the president now. That's the note promised nearly 12 hours ago by Radio Tokyo. The note that NBC's Dr. Max Jordan told us, it seems to me the men are coming out now. I hear loud voices. Hello, Ralph Howard Peterson at the White House. What is it? Just a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, the President has just announced full acceptance of the unconditional surrender terms submitted to us by the Japanese. Go ahead, Ralph Howard Peterson. The Emperor of Japan has just specified, in this message we have from President Truman, full acceptance of the Potsdam Ultimatum that was issued, as you'll remember, during the Berlin Conference. Now go ahead, Ralph Howard Peterson, with more. Mr. Peterson reports that President Truman told the newsmen that our arrangements are now being made for the consummation of the unconditional surrender of the Japanese. I presume these are military arrangements, are they, Ralph? That's right. They'll be made at the earliest possible moment by the Allies, acting in concert, I assume. All right. Ralph Howard Peterson reports from the White House that General Douglas MacArthur has been appointed Allied Supreme Commander for the occupation forces of the Allies that will take over Japan as a result of the submission to the Potsdam Ultimatum. You will remember that at Potsdam it was specified that the Allies would occupy strategic parts of Japan to guarantee that the surrender would be carried out. Now, General MacArthur has been appointed as the officer for all of the Allies, all four of the major powers, to carry out that occupation.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the studios of WTIC in Hartford, we are proud to present on this great day of victory the Governor of the State of Connecticut, Raymond E. Baldwin.
My fellow countrymen, we have heard the glorious announcement from our President of the unconditional surrender of Japan. The long-hoped-for day of victory has come. Japan, the last of our arrogant, heartless enemies, has been forced to surrender, the price of her treachery and cruelty. Our minds and hearts turn first to the brave souls whose courage and sacrifice in battles almost beyond number have brought this great day in our lives to pass. They have faithfully kept a rendezvous with destiny. They have done what had to be done. They have given what had to be given for their country, for their loved ones, for the cause of human freedom here at home and everywhere. Their glory shines before a rescued world.
WTIC continues its local and statewide coverage. We take you to Main Street, Hartford. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Floyd Richards speaking to you from downtown Hartford. It's a remote corner of the square. That is Main Street, Pearl Street, and Asylum Street. And when I say remote, well, it's just about the remotest place that you could find. And that, well, there isn't such a place in Main Street in Hartford tonight. The Main Street is just a seething mass of people. Such a throng as you've never seen in your life. I can't talk. I'm too joyous at the occasion myself. What I'm trying to say is that automobile traffic is just impossible. There hasn't been an automobile go down Main Street, I would judge, in the past 45 minutes. And people are still walking around. There have been bands out here of all sorts and descriptions, people just milling around. And when soldiers go up and down, well, they get everything from a glad how do you do to a great big kiss from some beautiful girl. And we have seen that tonight, too. Ross Miller is here with me on the street, and we're going to try to get some of the reactions of the crowd down here. So, Ross, I see that you have a beautiful young lady over here. Would you mind interviewing her for us?
Certainly, Floyd. Good evening, everyone. What was your first impression when you first heard the news of VJ Day?
Well, I went wild like everyone else did. And
by the way, what's your name?
My name is Beatrice.
I see. And do you have anyone in the service?
Well, yes, I have a friend in France.
Friends in France, I see. And where were you when it all happened? Were you right down here the very first thing?
No, I was home, but I immediately took a bus and went downtown to join the mad mob.
I see. Well, what's your impression of the crowd here tonight? Do you think you'll be able to get home?
No, I don't think so, and I don't care.
Hartford had settled down again and was concentrating on doing its part to welcome thousands of GIs back into the community by September. Opera lovers were first to receive a special treat that month when, on September 2nd, the first program of Your Box at the Opera was aired.